Um, the sequel, Jurassic Park: The Lost World, The Lost World Jurassic Park. My bad. The sequel, it has a lot of hate to it, but and I can see why, but it mainly stems from it comes from either the book or just how the producers wanted to adapt it, because the movie's actually very loosely adapted from the book. Because if you read the book, the main differences between the book and the movie is that the book feels more isolated. Like, okay, let's say the first movie was Aliens, the second movie would be Alien, and I'm not saying that because of status, I'm just saying on how it feels like, whereas Aliens feels more like bigger, you have a bigger landscape. Alien feels more isolated. That's how The Lost World's supposed to be. It's like this isolated place, like whereas the first film they had contacted the outside world and they had like all these high-tech equipment. In The Lost World, it's like it's all gone. It's like they're actually walking on an island where it's like the the dinosaurs have been roaming around for like a long time. So the Lost World's supposed to be the grittier version, the grittier story, and it is true though. Like it is darker than the first film, and the book is darker than the first book. But one of the problems of the Lost World is that since it's an adaptation of the Lost World, the Lost World as a book is not as good as Jurassic Park. Like if you read it, and you can count this as a review of the book too. The book is actually, it's not, I mean, I wouldn't say it's not as suspenseful, but it just feels sort of rushed near the end, and it just felt like they could have, Mike Brennan could have done a little bit more with the book. It's not a bad book, but it's just like it doesn't feel as complete as Jurassic Park did, the book. So the movie The Lost World already suffers from that, and it also suffers because the producers tried to go with a different direction from the book. And by a different direction, I mean like they changed a lot. Like the ending totally different from the book, and even the main villains, like the main villains aren't. I think it was Biosyn, like the enemy company of InGen in the books. They're Louis Dodgers not in the book, and the two henchmen, who I think it was Howard King and George Basilton, they're not in the movie. Like it's replaced by InGen's crew, like, and it's like they have a whole army of mercenaries, and even like the main cast, we have they're all, how they are introduced are totally different from the book. Like, but does that make it better, or does that make it worse? Like, for me, it actually I don't. It doesn't really matter because you still have that isolation feel. Like, whereas the only difference is like, even though the second movie has a bigger cast, I mean the movie adaptation has a bigger cast than the book. It still produces that like they're isolated on an island and they can't get out kind of feeling. So they got that part right, but it um it just seems like there's a bunch of plot holes in this movie that were some were carried over from the book and some were added in just because. Like one of the biggest plot holes from the book that they carried over were what was it? It was like one of the biggest plot holes was how the kids got onto the island. Like I never understood how they could miss that actually. In the movie, it just seems like she hid inside the actually in both the movie and the book, the kids hide inside the trailer thing. And it kind of makes me wonder how they missed that. And also the movie's own, like it's like movie only plot hole. There's a plot hole about how the crew was killed that was bringing in the T-Rex. Like I never understood how the T-Rex could miss that. Like I heard in a deleted scene it was the Velociraptors, but I think they said they didn't want to deal with the Velociraptors too, so they cut that part out. So now it doesn't make sense. So there's a lot of plot holes in The Lost World. It's also it's it's suspenseful, but it's like you don't feel as connected to the characters as you did in Jurassic Park. Like that, there's another problem. Like it's just how the story is told and how like um, it's just how the story's told basically. Like the the characters are not really made to be likable, and they actually lead to a lot of the problems they face. Like they I remember Vince Vaughn released the dinosaurs, so he actually unintentionally caused the whole mess to occur because when he released the dinosaurs, he destroyed the radio, well, the other camp's radio, and he brought the T-Rex to their camp. So actually, Vince Vaughn and Julianne Moore are the cause of the whole problem of the movie. And it's these stupid mistakes that make you not like the characters. So, but overall, The Lost World, it's definitely not as good as the first one. Like, I'm not gonna lie, but as a movie, I don't really hate it as much because I wasn't entertained. I was entertained by like the, action scenes, and it's still nice to see an adaptation of the books, even though it's loosely. But as a movie overall, it's not that bad.